Did you know that one of Air India's planes is over 64 years old? Yes. One of their Boeing 777s is older than many of their passengers. What's the story behind this plane? Why does Air India still have it? And why did British Airways sell it to them? Keep watching to find out. In the early 1950s, India was looking to start an airline. It was gaining independence from the Dutch, Portuguese, and, of course, the British Empire. As the new country grew in confidence, so did its desire to take on new challenges. Starting an airline was one of those. So in 1947, they made a deal with Tata Motors, which would later become known as the Tata Group. They had experience running airlines since the 1930s, when they started a small mail service between Mumbai and some other cities. Now they wanted to help India set up an airline that would be called Air India. In May 1948, Air India was officially established with Tata Sons as its holding company and the government of India as the promoter. The airline would eventually be owned 100% by the government. But at first, they needed aircraft to fly scheduled passenger services. They bought a bunch of used DC-3s, also known as C-47s, or Skytrainers. These were transport aircraft that had been used during World War II to carry troops and supplies. There were 4 of these planes, and they were not enough for such a large country. So they decided to order new planes from Boeing in the United States. This order consisted of 2 Boeing 777s and 4 Boeing 707s. The first one arrived in India in June 1953, and the last one arrived in December 1956. These were the first jet-powered commercial aircraft to arrive in India. One of them was registered as VT, JHB, and had the tail number 259. This plane was delivered to British Overseas Airways Corporation, or BOAC, which later merged with British Airways in 1974. This meant that VTHB was flying for British Airways before being sold to Air India. Now here's the thing about these planes. They were considered outdated even before they left the factory. By the time they were delivered to India, they were already old news. You see, Boeing had just introduced the 707 to the world in 1954. It was one of the first commercial jet-powered airliners. At that time, India didn't have any experience with jet aircraft, so they sent some of their pilots to the US for training. One of those pilots was Captain J.R.D. Tata, who was the son of the chairman of Tata Motors. He trained on the Boeing 77 and became the first Indian pilot to fly a jet. When the plane landed in India, it was a welcoming ceremony at the airport where Captain J.R.D. Tata was supposed to be the hero of the day. He was going to be the one who piloted the plane to the gate after landing. But things didn't go as planned. As he approached the runway, the instruments failed, and he couldn't land the plane properly. Another pilot named Captain F.G. Trahan had to take over and land the plane for him. Nevertheless, the first flight was considered successful, and the plane was accepted by Air India. So why was this plane important to Air India? It wasn't just because it was a jet plane, or because it was a new plane. It was because it symbolized India's progress and independence. It showed that India could now fly modern jet planes and compete with other airlines in the region. It also showed that India was not afraid of flying dangerous jet planes or hiring inexperienced pilots. But little did they know that this plane would cause them big trouble in the future. Fast forward to the year 2000 when India decided to privatize Air India. This meant that the government would sell Air India to a private company or individual who could turn it around and make it profitable. But as we all know, this did not happen immediately. It took several attempts and a lot of negotiation before Air India was finally sold to a consortium led by Tata Motors. This deal was worth $2.4 billion and it included 141 planes, 151,000 employees, and a whole lot of debt. For Air India, this was a chance to shed its money-losing ways and become a leaner, meaner airline. For Tata's, this was a chance to own the country's flag carrier and restore its glory. But for one pilot, this meant losing his job. That pilot was Captain Alok Ski. He was a 60-year-old pilot who had flown for Air India for more than 35 years. He loved flying for Air India, and he didn't want to retire. But according to the deal, only pilots under 55 years old could be hired by the new Air India. So he found himself out of a job. Here's where the story takes a turn. See, Captain Alok Singh had a friend named Captain Deepak Kapoor, who's a British Airways captain who flew one of their Boeing 777s. One day he called his friend and told him that he had a proposition for him. He said, "I know you do and want to retire, and I know you love flying the 777. Why don't you come and fly for me? I need a senior pilot like you to train my new recruits." Captain Alok Singh was very happy to hear this. He applied for the job and got it, packed his bags and moved to London, where he started working for British Airways. He was very excited to fly the 777, but he also had a secret plan. He wanted to buy that 777 and bring it back to India. He knew that Air India was desperate for planes, and he thought he could make a lot of money if he sold it to them. So he started saving up his money and made a plan. He befriended one of the engineers on the ground crew, who could help him inspect the plane and prepare it for sale. He also made a deal with a broker in India who could find a buyer for him. Everything was set, and all he had to do was wait for the right moment. That moment came sooner than expected. In September 2000, British Airways announced that they would be retiring some of their oldest planes, including the Boeing 777 tail number 259. This was music to Captain Alok Singh's ears. He knew that this was his chance to buy the plane and make some money. He contacted his broker in India and told him that he had a great deal for him. He also told the engineer to get ready to inspect the plane and fix any problems it might have. But there was one problem that the engineer couldn't fix. When he inspected the plane, he found that it had a lot of wear and tear and needed a lot of maintenance. He also found that some of the parts were outdated and hard to find. This meant that buying the plane would cost a lot more than Captain Alok Singh had expected. He was very disappointed, but he still wanted to buy the plane, so he decided to ask British Airways for a discount. He explained his situation to them and asked them to sell him the plane for a lower price. But British Airways refused. They didn't want to make a loss on the plane, and they didn't trust Captain Alok Singh to handle it properly, so they decided to sell it to someone else. But who was that someone else? Well, that someone else was Air India. Captain Alok Singh was very surprised when he heard this, but he was also very happy. He had managed to convince Air India to buy his plane, and he had made a lot of money in the process. He gave the money to his broker and bought a brand new car with it. He also gave some money to the engineer who helped him with the deal. Then he retired and went back to India. When Air India received the plane, they were very happy with it. They didn't care that it was old or that it needed maintenance. They just needed a plane that could fly and bring in revenue. They painted it in their colors and put it into service. They also hired Captain Alok Singh to fly it, but he turned them down because he was already retired. Air India was very upset when they heard this, but they couldn't do anything about it. They had bought the plane, and they had to use it somehow. So they put it into service with a new crew. As for the plane itself, it has been flying for over 60 years now. It has seen a lot of action, and it has been through a lot of wear and tear. But it's still flying today. It's still one of Air India's most reliable planes, and it's still one of their most popular planes. People love to fly on it because it's comfortable and it's spacious. They also love to take pictures with it because it's old and it looks cool. But not everyone loves it. Some people hate it because it's noisy and it's smoky. They also hate it because it's dangerous and it's unpredictable. But despite the hate, the plane keeps flying and it keeps bringing in revenue. It's a workhorse and it's a legend. It's a symbol of Air India and it's a part of their history. And that's the story of the oldest plane in the world. Thank you for watching and see you next time.